There are 4 things I no longer do on the carnivore diet. Let's find out what they are. Welcome back to my channel. Let's start with number 1. I no longer obsess over coffee. Now, truth be told, I love coffee. It's just that coffee doesn't love me. And throughout my adult life, I had this quitting and restarting of coffee. And I know I do better if I don't drink coffee. But guess what? Life gets in the way. After my yet another attempt of quitting coffee, I did it successfully for about almost a year and a half or almost 2 years. And then I got pregnant, and then I had a baby that was waking up to feed for a long time between 3 and 4 a.m. And to be fair to my son, he would just wake up for 10 minutes. It was something about my sleep patterns that when I woke up, I couldn't go back to sleep. So he would wake up, I would nurse him 10 minutes, I wouldn't have to do much. He would go back to sleep on his own. And then there was me not being able to fall asleep for hour and a half, sometimes 2 hours. So guess what? If he wakes up at 4 a.m. and I'm tossing and turning at 5 a.m., 5:30 a.m., then around 6 he will wake up again at 6 to feed. So I was sleep deprived for a really long time. Now it got better. But then I started making a really, really weak, diluted coffee just to get by, especially when I returned to work. It was just impossible to manage the schedules and my ever so demanding job. So I started drinking coffee. Very weak one, but I'm drinking coffee at the moment nonetheless, with egg yolks and collagen in it and all that good stuff. But yeah, here I am. So at this stage, my little one is sleeping through the night, no problem, from roughly from 7:38 till 6:37. But my patterns didn't adjust yet. I still wake up sometimes at 4, sometimes at 5, and sometimes at 6. And sometimes I can go back to sleep, and sometimes I cannot. So I'm still putting up with coffee. I will quit it again. Of course I will. But right now I have to normalize my sleep. And on the other hand, there are people who do well with coffee. It doesn't bother their stomach. It doesn't make them jittery. They can have a cup of coffee 3 hours before they go to sleep, and they fall asleep just fine and sleep through the night. But they feel happier, it elevates their mood, makes them more productive, and in many cases, it was a condition for them to succeed on the carnivore diet. So as an experienced coach, I let it go. Let's get all the gains we can get. Yes, I know coffee isn't carnivore, but for some people, going on the carnivore diet and drinking coffee was the good combo, the best combo for their overall health and performance. So we adjusted. Number 2, I no longer stay in ketosis long term. When I first started the ketogenic diet, I thought ketosis was the end goal, be all and all of being healthy was to use ketones for energy. Now I know this is sort of misguided because I could be in ketosis by virtue of drinking olive oil or other seed oils, and I would have been in ketosis, but would this be an optimal diet? Not so much. Of course, ketosis have many useful applications. So if you are dealing with chronic disease, systemic inflammation, you have all those inflammatory metabolic pathways running wild, going into ketosis will shut down those inflammatory pathways and open up the anti-inflammatory pathways. If you have compromised gut, increased gut permeability, cancers, I think this is very helpful to be in ketosis. And if I were to go back into PKD, I would do it with ketosis as well, over 2, but I wouldn't strive to be in it for so long. Now, another thing that happened to me was I was in ketosis for a really long time doing PKD, and then I got pregnant, and my body just had an aversion to ketosis. just as much as you hate certain foods when you are in the first trimester, I started hating being in ketosis. So I had to bring back some carbohydrates to get out of ketosis. And I felt a lot better during pregnancy and postpartum when I wasn't in ketosis. I don't quite understand the mechanism, but that's what I've experienced, and that's what my body was dictating, and I adjusted my behaviors. So if you've never been in ketosis, give it a try. See how your body switches from glucose metabolism and to ketone metabolism. This will give you a good idea how metabolically flexible you are, but you don't have to obsess in being in ketosis, and it is not a condition to be successful on the carnivore diet. If you like to be in ketosis, we can definitely make a program that will involve that, and with the paleo-ketogenic diet version of the carnivore diet, you're supposed to be in ketosis over 2, and it is quite easy to get there and stay there. But if you don't feel your best by staying long-term in ketosis, you don't have to. And you can still achieve a lot of health benefits and overall performance being on the carnivore diet and not staying in ketosis. Oh, and one last thing about ketosis. If you are one of these people that tried being in ketosis, really struggled to stay in ketosis, and when you were in ketosis, maybe you were performing great for a day or 2, and then you started feeling sluggish and fatigued. But you heard those stories of people being in ketosis, their mental performance is extra great, they have physical strength, they do better in the gym, but somehow it doesn't work for you. You're not an exception, and there's nothing wrong with you. For some people, ketosis enhances their performance, and for others, just doesn't. And you might be just one of them, and it's not a big deal. Just let it go. Do carnivore diet without being in ketosis. And number 3, intermittent fasting. I no longer do it regularly. And I know it's been associated with carnivore diet, almost a feature of it, because the satiety levels are so much higher than with any other diet type that you naturally gravitate towards eating 2 meals a day. But for some of us, like myself, in the second half of my monthly cycle, I do get hungrier, and I'll just eat breakfast. There are days that I don't feel like having breakfast and I'm okay, and there are days that I'm really hungry and I want to have breakfast, and I have a big breakfast and then lunch and dinner, and that's all right. Personally, I learned about intermittent fasting at least 10 years ago, long before I got into carnivore diet. And when I did the intermittent fasting, I did it religiously, straight for 5 years without skipping a day. And in the beginning, I was seeing a lot of benefits. So my typical breakfast would be bagel with cream cheese and jelly and some coffee. And then I stopped eating those bagels, which improved my mental performance and concentration. And I noticed this at my work. I was performing a lot better, but now I know that the reason for that was my sensitivity to gluten. That it was gluten that was giving me that mental fog. So when I stopped eating it, my mental fog went away. And then I lost that last 5 pounds that I was looking to lose and got to the target weight. My performance at gym improved. But then my body got used to it, but my hormones didn't like it all that much. And I started noticing it in my monthly cycle, which went from 28 days to 27 to 26 to 25. And then when I got to 24, I started suspecting that intermittent fasting had to do something with it. So I quit it. But what I would do is, when I didn't feel hungry in the morning, I would not eat. But especially in the second half of my cycle, I would feel a lot more hungrier in the mornings, and this would be the time when I'm eating breakfast and then eating lunch and eating dinner, and I'll have 3 meals a day without feeling guilty about it or whatever. And guess what? My hormones normalized, and my cycle returned to 28 days. So especially if you're a woman, you don't have to pursue intermittent fasting and carnivore diet. What usually happens is, because you feel so much more satiated, that you don't need to eat 3 times a day, so you end up naturally eating twice a day. And if this happens to you naturally and you feel fine and your body responds to it well, do it. But it's not a condition, and it's not an integral feature of the carnivore diet. Most people will just be fine with 2 meals because they feel so satiated. But if you do feel the need of eating breakfast or eating in the morning, do it. You don't have to intermittent fast. Some people will do better with eating in the morning and then late in the afternoon and skipping dinner, and that's fine too. It is important that you listen to your body and then just follow what it tells you, except for the cravings, especially for the carbohydrates. That's one exception. And maybe the coffee withdrawals. But other than that, you can listen to your body. And finally, number 4, I no longer make carnivore substitutes for the foods I don't eat on the carnivore diet. So things like carnivore pancakes, carnivore bread, carnivore chips, waffles. I actually saw once somebody made carnivore pancakes with caramel sauce with the caramel flavorings and xylitol and pour it over those carnivore pancakes. No, that is not a good way of being on the carnivore diet. I came to terms with the fact that I have sensitive gut. I had a history of autoimmunity due to increased gut permeability. And I have to eat meat-based diet, probably for the rest of my life. I was able to introduce things like fruit, like rice, root vegetables, but ultimately it is 80 to 90% meat fat and some root vegetables, some fruit. And for the winter months, I always return to pure carnivore. The best way to eat carnivore diet is to eat meats and prepare them as meats and not try to turn them into anything else. This is the way to achieve most of the health benefits by eating carnivore diet, and forget about all kind of carnivore substitutes. There are so many different ways of making meat, and there are just about every one last of them delicious. Just enjoy the flavor of meat. All right, this will do it for this week's video. As you see, I'm not ideological about carnivore diet, and I will work with people to put together a diet plan that works for them the best to achieve the maximum health benefits and lifestyle outcomes. And that may vary from person to person, and I am really flexible. If you haven't yet, subscribe, hit that notification bell. The link to my coaching site are in the description box. I will see you in my next video. Bye.